James is having Nasturtium Pizza. Well, there's a lot of nasturtiums that I harvested today from the peat bale row, but I put just some spinach and pepper rings on the pizza. And then we'll have the kiwi cake, and mine has portobello mushrooms on it too, because I hadn't eaten one of my portobello burgers, so I put that on. And it was still good. I was lucky. It was still in the fridge and I'd forgotten about it. The Killing got top of the stack rating. Then Baby Teeth and Night Hunter. And I don't know what James is going to talk about after that.
After American, maybe?
Oh, okay.
Get ready for Armageddon! So, folks, just in case you didn't realize, Pauline is an artist when she comes to writing poetry, an artist when she comes to writing songs, song lyrics and songs. And you should know by now, but in case you didn't realize, artistry.
Yeah, I try to make the food look. So I hope you like it too from your end. So The Killing. This doesn't just have The Killing in it. This has another movie in it. And let's see. I'll take the book out. It came with the book. So there's The Killing, and then there's Killer's Kiss. So it comes with, this edition comes with a little booklet. And it's actually a pretty interesting read. One thing right at the end, I didn't get that when I watched the movie. Like they were saying, oh, the one movie, it came right before. So the one movie was like 1955. Read it just to let you know. The Killing was 1956 and Killer's Kiss was 1955. So they were saying that The Killing is considered to be Stanley Kubrick's first mature motion picture. So I don't know. I liked both of them. They were different. You know, there's in Killer's Kiss, there's romance. You know, there's
It's more about kissing than killing?
well, there's in The Killing, there's a husband and wife, and the wife is two-timing, and she's a beautiful woman. She reminds me of my best friend from high school, who she had a big dream that all she needed to do was find a man who would give her an allowance of $800 a month. That's all she needed. That's all she wanted, she said. She didn't think it was unrealistic, and maybe it wasn't, but that's not what ended up happening with her life. But this woman reminded me of her in a way. Very beautiful and everything. Anyway. And I won't get into that because I'm supposed to be reviewing these movies. So, in Killer's Kiss, though, there's a relationship between a man and a woman, and they are in love. And I don't know if maybe the critics thought that people being in love was less mature or something. Honestly, I like both movies. They were just different movies. They were different stories, different characters, whatever. I like both. So it isn't less mature to watch people who have a more mature relationship or something like that have a healthier relationship. I don't know. Anyway. And then they said for whoever wrote this booklet, don't care. You can look if you care. It must be Hayden Guest, I'm guessing, from this. But anyway, don't know. Don't care. The detached quality of the voiceover is underscored by its frequent interchanging with the live racetrack commentary, whose perfunctory recitation of the colorful horse names expresses a flat pseudo-excitement and automaton irony. And I didn't actually think that that was the case. I liked the fact, I think he did play with the racetrack commentary, and he was comparing that with the voiceover. That was the narration of the story, right? Well, while you're going along. And I think he was just basically, my perception of what his art was trying to convey was that they're alike. They're similar. The stories, the racetrack, whatever, and like the horses, the people. That's all. But I didn't see the, like he was saying it was like, I guess I should go on and say, the emotionally 0-degree voiceover in The Killing ultimately points, of course, toward the computer god Hal in 2001, whose emotionless voice gives sinister weight and meaning to its unfeeling blah, 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 blah. Who cares?
That sounds like
and I didn't feel that. I didn't see that in this movie. But whatever. I thought it was an interesting read, and I value that person's opinion on things. But anyway. Oh, and I guess I should say that these were in black and white. Both of these movies. If you don't like black and white, you won't appreciate them perhaps, but they're worth watching. If you like Stanley Kubrick at all, you will want to watch these movies. Baby Teeth. At first, I didn't care for the movie. I was writing poetry and not really getting into it, but I started getting into it more. They're very troubled teenagers who get together, and it's like a parent's worst nightmare. The girl ends up with this guy who's a house robber. Honestly, like, he's really bad news, but somehow, you know, the situation is bad and he ends up helping out anyway. So he makes the girl's life, he helps her grow up a little bit. She's in a position where she's kept in her house like a little child. You know, the baby teeth thing is, there's a reason behind that, you know, and it's because her parents really care for her, and she's not like other children, not like other teens, you know, but she's growing up, and so this boy gives her an opportunity to mature a little bit before. Anyway, I shouldn't go on about that because I'm giving too much away. So it's worth watching, and I think this one was from Australia, so I don't know. Anyway, but it seemed to me that it was, and there was some good music in it too. So, Night Hunter. This one has Ben Kingsley in it, whom I like pretty good. And I guess it's an interesting enough story. I certainly didn't expect things to turn the way that they did. And I don't want to give any of that away, because even though it's the bottom of the stack, it was still entertaining. So there you go. That's if you're into crime drama sort of stories, then you probably like this one. Anyway, if you're not, then you probably won't, whatever. But James is going to go on with his review of that book now, I suppose. How's Nasturtium Pizza, James?
It's so good. Folks are going to have to wait for the review while I finish this first piece. So, it's okay. There's a...
I still burnt the bottom a bit, eh? I'll work on it.
I didn't even notice. Anyway.
Mm-hmm. Better than last time.
If there's a little bit of dead air, it's just giving the competition out there on the internet a chance to catch up with us, you know?
Yeah. Catch up with my... There's other people out there, we talk about it occasionally, how other people have like 3 million views or whatever for a cat dancing or something like that. But I Sometimes I can't get one.
One of these days we'll have the dogs performing.
That's what I need to do. I need to get Elvis here
Elvis is
dancing
incredible.
while we're eating.
Yep, he's got a few moves, so you guys hang tight. People out there tend like animals. We'll make a little segue from what I'm going to be discussing. From what Pauline was discussing. So Kubrick, I think, is one of my favorite movie directors, or was. But his politics were questionable, and look increasingly so, as the decades go by. You look at something like Dr. Strangelove; it's awesomely done. The best part of it, actually, was more a matter of casting, and that's casting Peter Sellers in not one role, but several roles. They say one of those roles was based, partly at least, on Teller, an American physicist, originally Hungarian. And from what I can tell, Teller was right. I mean, Teller was going, eventually the hydrogen bomb is going to be developed, and it had better be in the hands. It would be better, and it had better be in the hands of the Americans and not the commies, Russian, Chinese, whatever. And he was absolutely right. I mean, there might be all sorts of idiots out there, useful idiots, useless idiots, now since the fall of the Soviet Union, who would want to style LBJ as a huge war criminal, or John F. Kennedy as a huge war criminal, or Eisenhower, a huge war criminal, Truman, a huge war criminal. Stalin, the contemporary of Eisenhower, Truman, FDR, was possibly the worst war criminal and criminal against humanity ever existed. And when you got Dr. Strangelove, at least the people who wrote the original thing, it was in a novel, I'm not sure, or the script, got it right. The American president's a little Casper Milquetoast. You remember him? Well, that's played by Peter Sellers too, isn't it? The bald-headed guy with the glasses.
I don't remember, honestly.
Anyway, he looks like Adlai Stevenson with glasses on, stuff like that. It's a Casper Milquetoast. This shouldn't come as news to you, but I'm afraid I can recall talking to a newly converted communist a while back. He was about 18, 19 years old, and a sex trade worker working both sides of the fence, interestingly enough. And working both sides of the fence is plenty fine, but when you're a sex trade worker, that's not plenty fine. You're doing it for money, as far as I'm concerned. And but he'd been by his own admission, a racist, and then he'd switched over. When you go from one side to another, it's really not unimportant. When you go from one extreme to another. But he was saying, and without any trace of irony, that Stalin had killed no one. Oh, okay. This was like 5 years ago. So, the bad guy is a crazy guy in Dr. Strangelove. He's a crazy, probably an Air Force commander or something like that. Kind of forgotten the exact details. I've seen the movie several times, and it's well worth watching and rewatching, so on and so forth. But see, the point is with the commies and their and their nuclear arms, the crazy people were right at the top. Stalin was crazy. He could live and function in reality, but he was the worst kind of crazy because he could function, and it wasn't just that he could kill people, he did tens of millions of people, innocent people. Mao Zedong, crazy, but he could function in society, and he killed, was capable of killing, and he killed millions, tens of millions of people, both of those guys in their own society, and they facilitated the killing of tens of millions of people in Korea, in Vietnam, in the so-called third world for decades. And you've got people, I bet you Stanley Kubrick was one. Here I'm looking at the book, but Stanley Kubrick, they still talk about the Red Scare, the communist menace, the communist threat. Anyone who in retrospect isn't scared about Stalin having his bloody finger on the button, is a nutbar. Mao Zedong was even crazier. Khrushchev too. I mean, here's how he was diagnosed by the CIA. This is in documents that have been released. Hypomanic. That's low-yield bipolar. Look it up. And if they'd said bipolar, the term back then would have been manic-depressive. I would have suspected it was some sort of disinformation or something like that. But, you know, actually, when you look at his behavior, I think hypomanic's a little bit of an understatement. But he had his finger on the butt, and he had bloody fingers too. His fingers were bloody all the way up to his armpits. Read your history, in case you think he was all sweetness and light. He was in power for a few years, aggrandizing power, before he made his speech exposing Stalin's crimes in '56. Or exposing in '56 Stalin's crimes. You see, the big trouble is, some of those crimes were carried out by Khrushchev. Khrushchev knew about them first bloody hand. He was a nutbar too, and his finger's on the trigger. His finger on the trigger. Great. So, you know, like what a lot of folks, they're still doing, you know, like Oliver Stone. They indulge in capitalist scare, bourgeois terror, the Calvinist threat, which really is ridiculous. Capitalists tend to be a bunch of wimps. Witness Donald Trump. He's, I guess he is a bit of a threat. But if you go around comparing him with Hitler, you're indulging in melodrama. Not just drama, but melodrama. Cut it out. It gets old after a while. I've been hearing it for decades. For over half a century. I'm getting tired of it. Not sick and tired yet. I'm not going to throw up on screen quite yet. But at any rate, after America. So, I'm afraid Mark Stein is right about this, like, get ready for Armageddon. It won't quite be Armageddon. I think it would be just like, this is the way the world ends, not with a bang, but a whimper. The way the civilized world ends. You know, like, what'll happen is in places like England, Canada, and a little bit later maybe in the United States, the democratic system will be taken over by, let's say, Muslims. Muslims don't believe in democracy. You know, it says Gwynne Dwyer finally gave up on criticizing the Americans on going into Iraq, Afghanistan, more so Iraq. And he said, you know, I finally come to believe it might have been around 2011, the wake of what was happening with the so-called Arab Spring. When it was happening, I was saying to Pauline, when it was happening, I was coming down with cancer. I was in the last stages, actually, of multiple myeloma. Not coming down with it. I've been coming down with it for years, undiagnosed by my flunky doctors.
You're being put down by it.
Put down, exactly right. The way they do in the SPCA. Anyway,
I think the SPCA claims to be a no-kill.
Okay.
And
There are
never-
places, the pound puts animals down, right? They don't talk about it.
Yeah.
So,
Well, they even claim to be a no-kill here in Lethbridge, but that's, I mean, we go in there and there's like 3 cats in a cage and 2 dogs.
a city
lots
of 100,000 people and only
like,
3 cats ended up as strays. Right. Don't lie to us. But anyway, what was I talking about?
Oh, sorry.
It doesn't matter. I just
Totally
woke
ruined
up,
it.
so really there wasn't much to ruin. But I mean, all this stuff should be self-evident to you folks out there. There are all sorts of people just stumbling around in the dark, and they've seen the light so much it's blinded them. You know, like you know, like all sorts of people deluded about Putin. You know, like it can't be that. You know, like it's so obvious. You know, like it's like Salman Rushdie said in the wake of 9/11, about a week after. It's about Islam, blinding flash, and it blinded so many people. No, it can't be. It's about the colonial legacy. What? Say what? You know, like, tell me when in history, and I study history going back to the first empire, the Akkadian Empire. It actually, you know, the Egyptologists get it wrong. Their dating system is incorrect in at least 2 different ways, and or at 2 different points. And so they actually extended their empire from Iraq into Egypt, bicontinental empire. And we'll say that was around 2000 BC. It's dated to around 2350 BC conventionally, but it's off by about 150 years. You know, like, and you tell me when. You tell me when Saudi Arabia, or Arabia generally, was colonized by anyone, much less Western powers. You know, so many of the killers in 9/11 came from the Asir province of Saudi Arabia. When was it ever colonized? Now, it was imperialized by the Turks, fellow Muslims. Newsflash, don't let that blind you. But it was only like the extreme western extremities. So the Ottoman Empire controlled Mecca and Medina and Jeddah, the access to on the Red Sea to Mecca, the port there. But look on your map. You really think Mecca's right in the middle of Saudi Arabia? Do you think Medina, the second most holy site, at least to the Sunnis, amongst the Muslims, is in the middle of Saudi Arabia? It's almost like both of them within walking distance of the Red Sea. So the Ottomans controlled that. But you know, like the Arabs, Arabi as the Assyrians called them, they gave them all sorts of trouble. They went after them a little bit, like because Assyrian and other people's caravans going to Assyria were being messed around by Arabs coming down and, kidnapping people, ransacking the caravans and stuff like that, plundering them. These folks did. They were even on camels by that point in time. At least 850 BC, they were on camels. So they just run away, and then they come back again. But it wasn't worth, I guess, the imperialists to go after. Well, Western Europe didn't control Saudi Arabia ever. How about Turkey? Turkey. When has that ever been controlled by anyone? Now, like the Greeks conquered what's now Turkey, but the folks that they were taking over, that over from were, some of them would be descendants of Hittites, for example. What was the Hittite word for water? Water. Indo-European language. The languages found there in Turkey before the Greeks moved in were Indo-European. Lydian, for example. As I recall, Lycian. I think they found eventually that Carian was Indo-European. You've never heard of those things? Yeah, that's kind of like what I expect. There won't be any test on it. I'll expect you'll forget it. I'll have to raise the issue again and again and again and again. Armenian Indo-European language, not Turkic. Okay? The Turkic languages come from Siberia. That's where the Turkic people belong. They don't even belong in former Central Central Asia. They don't even belong there. They are maybe the ultimate, along with the Arabs, the ultimate settler imperialists, because they spread, and it's hard to get them to back up. Now the Brits are wimps. They gave up India without firing a shot.
I should mention that the guy that you like from here, I think his name was Reed. He's not in this. He was in the beginning.
And then he died or something like that?
No, he just didn't
pan out?
I can't remember. I was writing poetry at the time, but I think there were, like, even Penelope, she didn't want back in for a while. Like, these guys were retired from this, and
all of them.
And then they came back to catch this killer or whatever.
Oh, okay.
So I think he was just one of the people who he didn't want to
too easy
back
for him or whatever. But I'm just figuring what the motivation would be. Maybe he thought he could bigger and better things. He was a bit younger.
I don't know. I am actually wondering, because I'm thinking, well, are they planning to split up the...
A magpie
eating the seed today. That's different.
That's a first.
But and I'm wondering if they're wanting to split up the teams so that they can, how they had CSI, Las Vegas, Miami, da-da-da-da-da. I'm wondering if they're wanting to do a similar sort of thing.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
And the Reed guy would have his own little vehicle or something like that. Anyway,
we'll see.
We've got to be out of time. Probably ran out.
No, well, you have, you have 8 seconds.
Yeah, tune in next time. I'll be talking more about Mark Stein and the communist threat, the capitalist threat.